The Book of Enoch, a text hidden from most of us, yet overflowing with divine mysteries and ancient secrets. Imagine a book that speaks of angels, giants, and forbidden knowledge. A book that was once believed to hold the answers to humanity's most profound questions, but was excluded from the Bible. Why? What is it about the Book of Enoch that makes it so powerful, so controversial? What are the secrets it holds that could change everything we thought we knew about our existence and the divine? In this book, angels known as the Watchers descend to earth, not to guide, but to corrupt, sharing wisdom that was never meant for mankind. They teach us knowledge, astrology, war, magic, things that shape the course of human history. But the question remains, was this knowledge a blessing or a curse? What if the very things we've come to accept as progress, our understanding of science, our advances in technology, were influenced by these angels' rebellious actions? The Nephilim, the giants born of this forbidden union, stand as a testament to the consequences of defying divine order. As we explore this powerful narrative, we must ask ourselves, what if the Great Flood wasn't just about cleansing humanity, but eradicating something far more dangerous? What if the world we live in now is still grappling with the consequences of those ancient choices? This story, though steeped in divine judgment, is also one of healing. It challenges us to look at ourselves, our spiritual battles, and the choices we make daily. The Book of Enoch speaks of light and dark, of knowledge and the dangers of seeking power beyond our understanding. It's not just a story of angels and giants, it's a reflection of our own struggles with our higher purpose. As we uncover these truths, ask yourself, what if the answers have always been right there, waiting for us to look deeper? How would your understanding of your spiritual journey change if you embraced the hidden truths within the Bible? Share your thoughts below. What do you think these secrets can teach us today? The enigma of Enoch, a man taken to the heavens. Enoch's story is one of the most profound and mysterious in the Bible, woven with divine mystery and spiritual depth. In the book of Genesis, we read that Enoch walked with God, and then he was no more because God took him. Genesis chapter 5:24. These few words hold an entire universe of questions. What does it mean to walk with God? And what was it that Enoch experienced in his final moments on earth that set him apart from every other human? Enoch was a man who lived in a world not unlike our own, a world filled with corruption, suffering, and sin. Yet he was chosen by God for something extraordinary. Unlike all the others who lived and died, Enoch never saw death. He was taken to heaven alive. But this moment of his disappearance, as enigmatic as it is, has profound lessons for us today. The concept of being taken by God is not just a spiritual riddle. It is a message of deep significance about the nature of divine connection. To walk with God signifies a relationship so intimate, so pure, that the boundaries of life and death could no longer hold. Enoch's journey is symbolic of how deeply our hearts must be aligned with the Creator to transcend earthly limitations. In a time when so many are burdened by distractions, anxieties, and worldly pursuits, Enoch's story reminds us that there is another way, a way of walking so close with God that the veil between heaven and earth becomes thin, and we can live out our divine purpose. This idea of walking with God invites us to reflect on our own relationship with the divine. How often do we make time to listen, to reflect, to align our lives with God's will? Enoch's walk with God is not merely a biblical anecdote. It is a call for all of us to cultivate a life of closeness with our Creator, to deepen our spiritual awareness and seek divine guidance. When we do this, just as Enoch did, we too can step into a higher understanding of life and embrace the power of transformation. As we reflect on Enoch's fate, we cannot ignore the paradox within it. A man who was fully human, yet able to transcend the physical realm and ascend to the heavens. His story challenges us to question the limits we place on our own spiritual growth. How much more could we achieve if we, too, sought to walk more closely with God, placing our trust in His divine plan for our lives? The story of Enoch is an invitation to leave behind the distractions of a world that seeks to pull us away from our spiritual path, and instead draw near to God, just as Enoch did. When we do this, we too can unlock the mysteries of heaven and begin to see life from a higher perspective, one that is filled with purpose, meaning, and divine insight. The Watchers, angels who fell from grace. In the shadows of the heavens, a group of angels known as the Watchers looked down upon humanity. These angels were assigned a divine purpose, to observe and protect mankind. However, instead of fulfilling their duties, they allowed their desires to lead them astray, descending from their heavenly realm and defying God's order. They took human wives, and through these unions, the Nephilim, giants of immense strength and power, were born. This rebellion, as detailed in the Book of Enoch, tells a story of divine beings whose fall from grace forever changed the course of human history. The Watchers' actions represent the danger of allowing power and desire to override divine will. The angels, who were once messengers of light and protectors, chose instead to impart forbidden knowledge upon mankind. They taught humanity the art of war, astrology, magic, and other secrets that were never meant to be shared. Through these teachings, the earth was plunged into chaos. In a modern context, the story of the Watchers speaks volumes about the dangers of overstepping boundaries, whether it be in the pursuit of knowledge, power, or influence. Just as the Watchers fell from grace, humans today are faced with similar temptations, the pursuit of forbidden knowledge or the hunger for power that corrupts the soul. The Watchers teach us a critical lesson. When we seek wisdom or power outside of divine guidance, we risk opening doors to destruction and chaos. These angels, once beautiful and radiant, became corrupted by their desires. This fall was not just a physical one, but a moral one, where they lost their divine essence by choosing their own will over God's. The story of their rebellion resonates deeply with us. How often do we choose the path of self-interest over the divine calling? How often do we let our desires, our ambitions, or our pride lead us into actions that harm others or take us further from our spiritual purpose? The consequences of the Watchers' rebellion were immense, as their actions led to the creation of the Nephilim, creatures of violence and destruction, who roamed the earth with a thirst for dominance. These giants represented a form of corruption that spread throughout the world, just as corruption spreads in our world today when unchecked power and knowledge are misused. But there is hope. The divine judgment that followed, the binding of the Watchers and the eventual destruction of the Nephilim through the flood, serves as a powerful reminder that divine justice will always prevail. Though the Watchers rebelled, their judgment was not swift, but it was certain. The flood that washed away the corruption on earth was a cleansing, a divine reset that allowed humanity to begin anew, this time under a more divine order. The lesson for us today is clear. While we may face the temptation of the Watchers to stray from God's path, we must remember that God's justice is always fair, always righteous. No matter how far we may fall, there is always an opportunity for redemption, just as Noah was given a chance to rebuild humanity after the flood. When we choose to turn back to God, we too can experience His grace, His redemption, and His healing. In our own lives, we might not be battling giants or angels, but we are constantly faced with choices that shape our spiritual journey. The Watchers teach us the importance of discernment, the ability to know what is divinely acceptable and what is not. When we stray from that divine wisdom, we must remember that, like the Watchers, we are not immune to the consequences of our actions. The story of the Watchers also invites us to reflect on the responsibility we have as caretakers of the knowledge we are given. Just as the angels were entrusted with wisdom and failed to protect humanity, we too are entrusted with gifts, talents, and wisdom. It is our responsibility to use these gifts in service of God, not for selfish gain or for the harm of others. The misuse of power, knowledge, or influence is always a path that leads to destruction. The true path is one of humility, service, and alignment with divine will. In essence, the Watchers' fall from grace is a story not just of rebellion, but of the consequences that follow when we step out of alignment with the divine. It is a story that asks us to examine our own choices, to stay grounded in faith, and to be mindful of the power we wield in our lives. By embracing humility, love, and divine guidance, we can avoid the trap the Watchers fell into, and instead walk the path of righteousness, just as Enoch did. As we reflect on the Watchers and their rebellion, we are reminded that our choices matter. The knowledge we pursue, the power we seek, and the actions we take have consequences. May we choose wisely, always remembering to walk in the light of God's wisdom, as Enoch did, and avoid the darkness that overtook the Watchers. When we stay aligned with God's will, we can experience a life of purpose, peace, and divine protection, free from the corruption that so easily entangles us. This section is written with the Bible's storytelling style, integrating high-energy, healing, and thought-provoking elements, while focusing on the lessons that can be drawn from the stories of Enoch and the Watchers. It connects deeply with the audience, encouraging reflection, and draws the listener into the larger spiritual narrative. The Nephilim, giants born of heaven and earth. The Nephilim, giants whose existence has stirred controversy and wonder for centuries. Born from the union of the Watchers, fallen angels, and human women, they were a race unlike any other. The Bible's brief mention in Genesis 6:4 tells us, "The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown." But who were these giants? And why were they so significant to our understanding of the spiritual and physical realms? These Nephilim were not just physically imposing beings, they represented a deeper spiritual corruption. The Watchers' decision to fall to earth and procreate with human women was a direct violation of divine order. They sought to blend the heavenly and the earthly, the divine and the human, creating a race that was neither fully human nor fully angelic. The Nephilim were born out of rebellion, and their existence caused widespread destruction. They were not beings of peace, but of war and chaos. Their tremendous strength and knowledge imparted by the Watchers led them to dominate, oppress, and instill fear among humanity. In many ways, the story of the Nephilim reflects our own struggles with unchecked power. We live in a world where the pursuit of greatness can sometimes lead us away from the divine, where we strive for power, knowledge, and control without considering the moral consequences. Just as the Nephilim misused their power to wreak havoc, we too face the challenge of ensuring our pursuits align with divine purpose. How often do we seek to achieve something at the expense of others, forgetting the importance of humility, service, and love? The Nephilim story warns us that power without wisdom leads to destruction. Their existence, once thought to be a symbol of human strength and potential, ultimately became a symbol of corruption. Their downfall, wiped away by the Great Flood, reminds us that, no matter how mighty or influential we may become, we are still subject to divine law. The flood was not just a physical event. It was a spiritual cleansing, a reset, a chance to start anew in the light of God's will. The story of the Nephilim encourages us to reflect on how we use the power we are given. Are we using it to serve others and fulfill divine purpose? Or are we seeking power for self-interest, leading to destruction? When we act from a place of ego or selfishness, we step into the same trap as the Nephilim and the Watchers, blurring the line between what is holy and what is corrupted. The Nephilim's fall is not just a tale from the past. It is a warning for us today, reminding us that our choices matter. When we choose to honor God's plan for our lives, we align ourselves with divine order. But when we choose our own path, disregarding divine guidance, we risk inviting chaos and destruction into our world. Reflecting on the Nephilim forces us to ask ourselves, how are we using the gifts we've been given? Are we building, creating, and leading in ways that honor God? Or are we seeking greatness without considering the consequences of our actions? Forbidden knowledge, the angels' gifts to humanity. When the Watchers descended to earth, they didn't just corrupt humanity through their physical unions with human women. They also imparted forbidden knowledge, wisdom meant to stay hidden from humankind. The angels taught humanity the secrets of war, astrology, magic, metallurgy, and other occult arts. These teachings were not blessings, they were curses disguised as gifts. The knowledge they shared with humanity led to the rapid spread of corruption and violence, and the earth soon became a place of chaos and despair. In a world where knowledge is often sought after and cherished, the story of the Watchers and their forbidden knowledge offers a powerful reminder of the importance of wisdom and discernment. Not all knowledge is meant to be acquired. There are truths that, when misunderstood or misused, can lead to great harm. The teachings of the Watchers were not intended to empower humanity, but to ensnare it, leading it down a path of self-destruction. This lesson is just as relevant today as it was in ancient times. We live in an era where knowledge is more accessible than ever before. The internet, books, and technology provide us with an abundance of information, yet not all knowledge is created equal. There are truths that can elevate us spiritually, and there are others that can lead us away from the divine path. The danger lies not in knowledge itself, but in how we choose to use it. The question we must ask ourselves is, are we seeking knowledge for the right reasons, or are we, like the Watchers, pursuing it for our own gain, with no regard for the consequences? The pursuit of knowledge should never be about acquiring power, control, or influence. It should always be about understanding the world more deeply, serving others, and drawing closer to God. In the story of the Watchers, we see the devastating effects of knowledge used for personal gain. In contrast, wisdom, as described in the Bible, is a gift that leads to peace, understanding, and righteousness. Proverbs 2:6 tells us, "For the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth come knowledge and understanding." True wisdom is always aligned with divine purpose. It does not corrupt, but heals. It does not lead to chaos, but to peace. The lessons from the Watchers remind us that knowledge is not just a tool, it is a responsibility. We must approach knowledge with humility and discernment, seeking only that which brings us closer to the divine. When we misuse knowledge, we risk repeating the mistakes of the past, becoming consumed by it, using it to harm others, and ultimately losing sight of the higher truths. The Book of Enoch urges us to recognize the dangers of seeking knowledge without wisdom. It teaches us that some truths, while powerful, can be destructive when misused. The pursuit of divine wisdom, however, leads to healing, understanding, and peace. By aligning ourselves with God's will, we can access the knowledge that builds up rather than destroys, that heals rather than harms. As we consider the angels' gifts to humanity, let us reflect on our own relationship with knowledge. Are we using the wisdom we've been given to serve God and others, or are we chasing after knowledge for personal gain without considering the potential consequences? May we seek wisdom from the Creator, the one true source of understanding, and may we always remember that the highest knowledge is that which brings us closer to divine truth. Divine intervention. The Archangel's judgment. In the wake of the Nephilim's reign of terror, the earth became a place of overwhelming violence and corruption. The divine order had been shattered, and humanity was on the brink of self-destruction. But just when the world seemed lost to chaos, God's justice intervened. 4 archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, were sent to carry out the divine judgment, binding the fallen angels and putting an end to the evil they had sown. The divine intervention, while an act of justice, also serves as a powerful lesson in mercy and restoration. The Watchers, who had once been glorious and noble, now found themselves in chains, awaiting their judgment. The Nephilim, who had once roamed the earth in terror, were destroyed in the great flood. It was a cleansing, a purging of the corruption that had taken root in the world. The role of the archangels in this judgment is crucial. They were not mere servants of God. They were the executors of divine will, sent to restore balance to a world that had fallen far from grace. In their actions, we see the embodiment of divine justice, not a cold, indifferent force, but a loving and purposeful intervention that seeks to heal the brokenness of creation. This story teaches us a valuable lesson about the nature of divine justice. It is not harsh or vengeful, but restorative. Even when we fall into darkness, when we stray far from God's path, His justice is still an act of mercy. The angels were not sent to destroy humanity, but to cleanse the earth, to offer a chance for renewal. The judgment on the Watchers and the Nephilim was not the end. It was the beginning of a new chapter for humanity, one in which divine order would once again take its rightful place. This divine intervention also reminds us of the importance of spiritual discernment. The angels did not act out of anger, but out of a deep commitment to God's plan. They understood that true justice comes from understanding the greater purpose of creation. They acted not out of revenge, but out of a desire to restore balance and peace. In our own lives, we are often faced with moments of difficulty and confusion. It's easy to act out of anger or frustration, but the story of the archangels reminds us that true justice is always rooted in love, mercy, and the desire for restoration. Just as the archangels were sent to restore balance to a world in chaos, we too are called to be instruments of divine justice in our own lives. We may not face the same spiritual battles as the angels did, but we are all called to bring peace, healing, and understanding to the brokenness around us. When we act with love and discernment, we align ourselves with divine purpose, helping to heal the wounds of the world, just as the archangels did in their time. The final judgment, the coming of the Son of Man. The Book of Enoch offers a vision of the final judgment unlike any other. It is a vision that transcends time and space, one that speaks of the end of days, when the Son of Man, a messianic figure, will return to judge the living and the dead. This figure, described as a divine judge, will separate the righteous from the wicked, rewarding those who have remained faithful to God's will and condemning those who have chosen the path of evil. The concept of the Son of Man is not new. It appears in both the Book of Enoch and in the New Testament, where Jesus himself refers to the title as his own. In the Book of Enoch, the Son of Man is portrayed as a figure of great authority, one who will bring divine justice to the earth, ending the reign of the wicked and establishing peace for the righteous. His arrival marks the culmination of God's plan for the world, bringing finality to the spiritual struggle that has raged since the beginning of time. In the Gospel of Matthew, We find Jesus using the title Son of Man to describe himself and his role in the coming judgment. In Matthew 25:31-46, Jesus describes how the Son of Man will return in glory, separating the sheep from the goats, rewarding those who have lived in service to others, and condemning those who have neglected the poor and needy. The same figure of judgment appears in Daniel 7:13-14, where the Son of Man is given authority and dominion over all nations. The story of the Son of Man speaks to the heart of our faith. It is a reminder that we are all held accountable for the choices we make in life. Every act of kindness, every word of truth, every moment of service to others is seen by God and will be rewarded in the end. But it is also a reminder that the Son of Man will return to judge the world, and there will be a reckoning for those who have chosen the path of sin. This is not a judgment based on appearance, wealth, or power, but on the condition of the heart. Those who have remained true to God's call, who have loved their neighbors as themselves, will be welcomed into eternal life. But those who have chosen selfishness, greed, and violence will face the consequences of their actions. The story of the Son of Man challenges us to live with a sense of eternal purpose. It calls us to examine our lives and ask ourselves, are we living according to God's will? Are we walking in righteousness, seeking justice and caring for those in need? Or are we living for ourselves, ignoring the suffering around us and neglecting the call to serve others? The Son of Man reminds us that our lives matter, that every decision we make has eternal consequences. The judgment that awaits us is not one to be feared, but one that calls us to live with intention, compassion, and integrity. The vision of the final judgment also offers hope. For the righteous, it is a promise of eternal peace and divine reward. It is a vision of a world restored, where the brokenness of sin and evil will no longer have a place. But it is also a call to action. As we await the return of the Son of Man, we are called to live as his hands and feet in the world, spreading love, mercy, and justice wherever we go. Our actions today shape the world of tomorrow, and the judgment that will come is not just a future event. It is happening now, in the choices we make and the way we live our lives. The Book of Enoch reminds us that judgment is both a future reality and a present responsibility. As we wait for the return of the Son of Man, we are called to live lives that reflect his love and justice, bringing healing to a broken world and shining the light of God's truth wherever we go. When the Son of Man returns, he will find us ready, not because of our perfection, but because of our commitment to live according to his will, serving others with humility, love, and grace. Why was the Book of Enoch excluded from the Bible? The Book of Enoch holds secrets so powerful that its exclusion from the Bible has puzzled scholars and theologians for centuries. Why was this book, rich in prophecy, divine wisdom, and celestial visions, kept out of the canon of Scripture? Was it because of its deep revelations about angels, the Nephilim, and the end times? Or was it the theological and historical controversies surrounding its origins that led to its rejection? The answer lies not only in its content, but in the way the ancient church sought to protect the purity of the message in the Bible. One of the key reasons the Book of Enoch was excluded is its attribution to a later time than the original patriarchs. Scholars agree that it was written much later, likely between the 3rd century BCE and the 1st century CE, and that it was not directly penned by the historical figure of Enoch himself. Instead, it was likely written by various authors seeking to claim the authority of Enoch, a respected patriarch known for his closeness with God. This act of pseudepigraphy, writing under a false name to lend authority to a text, raised doubts about its authenticity in the eyes of the early church fathers. The church was keen on preserving a canon that was true to the traditions of the early Israelites and the teachings of Christ. Another reason for its exclusion is the book's mythological and apocalyptic nature. The Book of Enoch is filled with descriptions of angels descending from the heavens, the birth of giants, and celestial journeys through the heavens that challenge conventional biblical teachings. The imagery of the Nephilim, the giants who were part human and part angel, was seen as too fantastical and troubling for the early church's understanding of angels and the divine order. In a time when the church sought to build a theological framework grounded in historical events and clear teachings, the Book of Enoch presented too much uncertainty, too many questions about the nature of angels, sin, and the end times. But the Book of Enoch was not without its influence. Despite being excluded from most Christian Bibles, the book was revered in early Jewish and Christian communities. Some Ethiopian Orthodox Christians continue to consider it part of their canon today. The Book of Enoch was also cited by the early church, even in the New Testament. The Epistle of Jude references Enoch's prophecy directly, further reinforcing the idea that the book was considered important in the early church. The fact that it was known to the apostles and quoted by Jude suggests that its message was recognized as valuable, even if it was not ultimately included in the final canon of Scripture. The exclusion of the Book of Enoch raises profound questions about what it means for a text to be considered divinely inspired. What happens when powerful truths are left out of the Bible? How do we reconcile the exclusion of a book that holds so many key insights into the spiritual realm, angels, and divine judgment? The Book of Enoch serves as a reminder that the Bible, while complete and whole in itself, is not the only source of divine knowledge and wisdom. There are many lost and hidden teachings that still resonate deeply with those who seek to understand the mysteries of the universe. For us today, the Book of Enoch encourages us to look beyond the surface of Scripture. It challenges us to question why certain ideas and revelations were excluded and invites us to dig deeper into the mysteries of the divine. We can learn from Enoch's faithfulness and his unique connection to the heavenly realm. Though his writings were set aside, the Book of Enoch continues to speak to those who are willing to listen, calling us to explore the hidden truths that are waiting to be uncovered. The legacy of the Book of Enoch. Even though it was excluded from most Bibles, the Book of Enoch has left a legacy that stretches across centuries. Its influence can be seen in various religious traditions, its ideas echoed in the writings of early Christian and Jewish texts, and its themes reflected in modern spiritual discussions. The Book of Enoch is not just an ancient document. It is a timeless reminder of the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding, the spiritual truths that continue to shape our lives today. One of the most profound aspects of the Book of Enoch is its portrayal of angels and the heavenly realm. It reveals the existence of beings who, though powerful and divine, have free will and can choose to fall from grace. The Watchers, who descended to earth and shared forbidden knowledge with humanity, represent the danger of seeking power without wisdom, of acting outside of divine order. The Nephilim, the offspring of these fallen angels and human women, symbolize the consequences of rebellion against God's plan. Their birth marked the beginning of a chain of events that led to the flood, the cleansing of the earth, and the restoration of divine order. The Book of Enoch shows us that the spiritual realm is not distant or separate from our own lives. It is deeply interconnected with the choices we make every day. The Book of Enoch also emphasizes the importance of divine judgment. It portrays a universe in which good and evil are locked in a cosmic battle, a struggle that is ultimately resolved through divine intervention. The Son of Man, a messianic figure who will bring justice to the earth, serves as a symbol of the ultimate triumph of righteousness over wickedness. This vision of judgment, while rooted in the ancient past, is also a message for us today. It reminds us that our actions have consequences, and that ultimately, God's justice will prevail. The Book of Enoch speaks to those who seek to understand the deeper mysteries of existence. It calls us to reflect on the nature of evil, the role of angels, the power of knowledge, and the hope of redemption. Its legacy continues to inspire those who are open to its teachings, offering insight into the spiritual struggles that are as relevant today as they were in ancient times. Despite its exclusion from the Bible, the Book of Enoch continues to shape our understanding of the divine and the spiritual realm. It serves as a reminder that there is always more to discover, more to learn, and more to understand about the mysteries of the universe. Its legacy is one of profound wisdom, inviting us to explore the hidden truths of the spiritual world and to live lives that are aligned with divine purpose. As we journey through the mysteries revealed in the Book of Enoch, it becomes clear that this ancient text is more than just a forgotten scripture. It is a testament to the deep spiritual truths that have always existed, waiting for us to uncover. In the world today, where so much of what we seek is material and fleeting, the Book of Enoch offers us something that transcends time: the wisdom of the divine, the secrets of angels and demons, the light that pierces through the darkness of confusion. It invites us to question the world around us, to seek a deeper understanding of who we are and why we're here. Throughout history, we have been taught that knowledge is power. But as we've seen in the stories of the Watchers and the Nephilim, knowledge, without wisdom and humility, can lead to destruction. The angels who defied God's will, bringing forbidden knowledge to humanity, caused chaos and violence that echoed across the ages. And yet, in the wake of this chaos, divine justice prevailed. Just as the Son of Man is prophesied to bring judgment and restoration, we too are called to seek the light of truth amidst the darkness that often surrounds us. The Book of Enoch shows us that, though we may face great trials, there is always a way forward, a path to redemption, to understanding, to peace. The divine justice that was carried out by the archangels serves as a reminder that God's plan is always at work, even when it seems like the world is falling apart. Just as the flood washed away the corruption brought on by the fallen angels, so too can we be cleansed from the burdens we carry. It's a call for us to reflect on our own lives, to consider the choices we make, and to align ourselves with divine purpose. In our own times, we may not face giants or fallen angels, but we do face choices that determine the course of our spiritual journey. We live in a world where knowledge is abundant, but true wisdom is often hard to find. We are constantly bombarded by messages telling us to chase success, power, and possessions, but these things are fleeting. The Book of Enoch calls us to seek something deeper, something eternal, divine wisdom, a connection with the Creator that transcends the material and touches the soul. It's a call to pause, to reflect, and to listen for the voice of God guiding us through the noise of the world. If this video has resonated with you, if you have found light and peace in these words, I ask you to consider supporting this journey of sharing God's wisdom with the world. The journey of uncovering these truths is not always easy, but it is one that brings healing and transformation. Every like, every subscribe, every comment is a reminder that we are all on this path together, seeking the divine, seeking understanding. If you feel this content brings value to your soul, or if it has helped you find clarity in the midst of life's struggles, your support will help me continue this mission. This work is not just mine, it is ours. We are all part of this spiritual community, lifting each other up, sharing in the wisdom that has been passed down through the ages. Your support, no matter how small, is a precious gift. It helps me continue to create content that inspires, heals, and transforms. And it ensures that this message, the message of divine wisdom, of hope, and of redemption, continues to reach those who need it most. So, if you feel that this message has touched your heart, if you found a glimmer of hope, I invite you to show your support, not for me, but for the work we are doing together. Every step forward on this journey is a victory, and your involvement helps to spread this light further. May we all continue to walk in faith, seek wisdom, and embrace the healing power of God's love. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being part of this journey. Your presence, your engagement, and your support mean more than words can express. Together, we can continue to explore the mysteries of the divine and bring healing to a world in need.